The voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us. It is, I think anyway, a terrific Tuesday. Start things off talking about a clash of the legends. Some just legends in their own minds, others legends in the making. But later on in the program, we had a chance to chat with our friends from the HSA about cervical cancer. So please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us. As we invite you not only to, as I say, live, love and laugh, but maybe you learn and equally be inspired, motivated, and hopefully you yourself would find ways to inspire others. In the studio, Mr. Brent Hydes and Mr. Frank Cornwall, and we talk about the hope for today and the idea, Frank and Brent, that we can do things as a community that brings out the families in particular. And I always think a little bit of competition is healthy, especially when it's fun, especially when sometimes we get to a certain point where we know what to do, but the connection and communication between the brain and the body is delayed. It may be coming by telegraph or the Rembro. It takes a while, right, Brent?
Actually, it's always a pleasure to be sitting across from you because I love your sense of humor. See, I don't feel too many things that I think I can't accomplish, particularly when it comes to soccer, because I think I'm one of the slipperiest footballers that this island has ever created. And Mr. Frank Cornwell is going to learn that on the 28th, how slippery the West Bay guys can actually be.
Frank, one of the things I said to Brent, in addition to all of the endeavors and the partnerships with the businesses and the wider community to ensure that the work of the Hope for Today and some organizations to not just rehabilitate but reintegrate and to remind us that we have value, that together we need to be our brother's keeper. But the events like the football challenges, some were once good. We're not even like the song, we were not even as good as we once were. Right? But the notion that you can get out there and claim some bragging rights. Now, Brent's a good friend, but Frank, boy, if I put my money on him or you, who would be the best bet? What do you think, Frank?
Well, apparently, Brent has been trying for a long, long time now to prove himself and prove that West Bay is a better team than Georgetown. Unsuccessfully over the years, and again, we're going at it, and it's good camaraderie as we get together and we can share and laugh and enjoy the moments, laugh at what took place. But, it's a big dream for Brent. He's always been dreaming of that day when West Bay will reclaim that trophy and hold it for themselves. Well, it's been held in Georgetown now for the longest time. I think it's been held practically ever since we started this.
I had growing roots in Georgetown now.
It's so far grown in Georgetown now that it'd almost be impossible to uproot this one and take it back to West Bay. it's probably about time that they even try for a new one.
Yeah. But Brent, this man is now coming into your backyard. Monday evening, 6 o'clock, 8 Bush Field. Literally your backyard.
Well, you know, I kind of wish my good friend Frank did not step on his own toe. Because if you recognize the fact for the last 2 games, there was a range to be played. Georgetown has been molded so bad that they thought it probably wouldn't have been beneficial to themselves to come to West Bay to play football, because he knew and was well aware that the West Bay boys was ready. And of course, you know, we got people like Tawny Smith, Miguel Smith, Keto Ronston, and all of those guys have been, you know, training a little bit. I mean, they're slippery as it is. You know, once they start doing some training, they become slippery. So my good friend Frank was well aware of that. So they choose not to come down. So the bragging rights really should be in West Bay.
But Frank,
but Brent, actually, if you recall, and the last time, we both didn't have a full team to play, because you yourself said one was afraid and
one were coward.
So, but apparently, what happened was at that time, a lot of people was off island on both sides, because there was a competition going on with the Cayman Islands, being overseas, and a lot of people had traveled to be with them and support them. So unfortunately, we didn't get to play, but hopefully they will come out in good spirits. Yes, as they have been training, they need to, because you know, they need to step their game up.
I think what Brent McLean had said one time, we were talking about, you know, with these tenders coming down. When he got there and looked at all the players, and then he looked at all of the volunteers from the EMS and all the physicians, there were more of them just waiting to stand by, just to make sure. No, that's not true.
That's when the age catches up with you. You need more help. So.
No, but it is as you said, Frank, good camaraderie.
Oh, it's
I mean, other than the people, there's just more food than anything else. It's a lot of good fun.
That is what it is, and it is. And what we're trying actually to achieve is we're raising funds for the Hope Foundation, which is one of the betterments of doing this, because actually what we're doing is we're trying to support the people that are most vulnerable and need the most help in the communities. And we're not just thinking of just one sector of the island. We're thinking about the broader view of the island, the broader communities.
Well, something that I'm hoping that as we continue to have this discussion, especially in this forum, especially in an opportunity where many of us like sports, many of us like football in particular, and for some of us that used to play, the idea that we could almost, you know, as the former Honourable Osborne Borden found out some time ago, doing the warm-up, he pulled a muscle, he said, he's not here, we can joke on him, you know, maybe he'll come through the studio. But it's fun, and it brings the community together to watch and to reminisce. And hopefully, as you said, Frank, remind us of how important it is to do this work.
And exactly, and let me bring to you guys' attention the importance of having the halfway house established and how it helps the community. I mean, a few weeks ago, I got a call from a particular psychiatrist who was working with someone that had to do some treatment in Jamaica. And after he finished treatment, and they were sending back home, they were able to engage in a conversation with the Hope for Today Foundation, because we have all decided that having that structure of a program, even though he's coming back home and he's doing real well, but having that structure of a program with other people that are seeking to accomplish the same thing that he is, and that is become a productive member of society, without a house like the Hope for Today Foundation, we may be struggling of somewhere where we could put this individual. So it's important for us as a community to recognize that Cayman has many people that are struggling with mental health and addiction issues. And facilities like these makes it possible for an individual to otherwise go away from treatment, come back to the Cayman Islands, and to have a clean bed to sleep in, a program that is designed for anyone struggling sometimes with mental health or with addiction issues. It allows them an opportunity to take their time and migrate into the community, and as they do that, they're able to find full-time employment. You look at the Hope for Today Foundation as it is today. Hope Foundation has 6 residents, and out of those 6 residents, 5 of those residents are holding full-time jobs. So these are people that couldn't hold down a week's work at one time.
Yeah. Now, when we come back from our break, let's talk about that, because I think the idea that some of us, and I say this carefully, but hopefully it won't, be misunderstood. We look.
Addiction usually is misunderstood.
Yeah, well, I begin to understand that, and we look and we make judgments and comments and so on. Now, I've heard this as a young fellow in almost every setting. There, but the grace of God go I. It could be one of us. It could be someone very close to us.
Yes.
And even if we dismiss that, that is somebody's child. That is somebody that we probably went to school. We probably know. It's someone in our community that's been affected. How are we going to be a positive influence?
Before you close off, you just give me a minute to touch on that.
Yeah, man.
To touch on that, that is why it is so important for us to have these type of games. Because what we do is we highlight the negative stigma that surrounds substance abuse issues. We also work on the social breakdown in this community.
Yeah.
Because your children get to know my children. I get to know your mother, your father, your friend. And when we do that, then what we're doing is we're building a healthier community. Because it leaves Frank in a position where if Frank saw my child out doing something that is not right, Frank then is in the position that he was call me or say, listen, you shouldn't be doing that because your father really would not appreciate that. So by putting on these type of events, we're allowing the community to come together to socialize in a healthy atmosphere.
Yeah, man.
And that's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Frank, I always enjoy speaking with you, man, and I think there are very few who share that love of the game, but more importantly, love of the community as you do. So when we come back, we'll have some fun. We can bait Brent a little bit. Hey, listen, why not have some fun now, right? For those who are listening, it's not just about a good football match coming up on Monday. It's not just about the community helping to restore itself, but it is about us being our brother's keeper. So please, join us when we come back. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Whether you're planning your child's next birthday party or simply looking for a social night out, look no further than Kingpin Bowling at King Sports Center.
With a range of packages and specials for bowling parties, socials, and corporate team building, Kingpin Bowling offers what no one else can. The only bowling alley in Cayman. And it's indoor fun, which means no mosquitoes, AC, and don't forget about their bowling bar. Book your bowling lanes today. Call 946-BOWL. That's 946-2495. Email kingpinbowling@candw.ky. For more information, visit their website, www.kingsportscenter.com.
King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
National Heroes Day is a time to celebrate our history, heritage, and be inspired for the future.
This year, we are honoring the people who pioneered the establishment of our first national symbol, the coat of arms, celebrating our journey to modern-day Cayman, and recognizing organizations who served our community for over 50 years.
The ceremony begins at 9 a.m. on National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th, at Heroes Square in Georgetown, with live entertainment and refreshments following the celebrations.
For more information, contact National Events at gov.ky or call 244-3612.
This National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th.
Show your national pride
and celebrate Cayman
as we pay tribute to our national heroes.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. In the studio, Frank Cornwall, Brent Hides, and hopefully, as the invitation extended to you, we recognize that Monday is a big day in many ways, but as you celebrate Heroes Day, you still have time in the afternoon to join the good folks at the Hope for Today Foundation down at 8 Bushfield from 3 o'clock onwards?
Yes, from 3 o'clock to 6. We're going to be providing some bunks and castles and free food for the children. Everything is free. The foundation does not want to put any price tag on anything. We just want the community to come out so we can work on removing some of the negative stigma that's around substance abuse, and most of all to rebuild a healthy community. And we think we're trying to do that through sports.
Well, sports, I think there was a mantra way back, sports for all. I think some of us had part of our uniforms that was emblazoned on it. Maybe we didn't understand, but we were participating. We were playing. Some were better than others, but we were engaged. And the health of mind, the health of body, health of community.
True.
Frank, you started at many, but end of the day, that spirit still embodies your ethos today.
Oh, yes, it does.
All right.
I can only simply say, come out and watch the ballers from the 80s and the 90s that have made football what it is today. It was true people like Stoker, Floyd Webb, Frank Caldwell, and all the GT guys like Lee Ramon, Antonio Ramon, myself, Antonio Smith, Miguel Smith, Ralph, what Ralph's last name is again? Williams.
I think he said Pele, but I just
okay. Ivan, Henry, Cheeky, Congo. Come out and watch the people that have really enjoyed football back in those days, that have actually contributed such a major piece to seeing football to where it is.
But Frank, as a parent, say that there's no question that when the game was played, people played to win. It was competition, but it was a love and it was fun.
It was a passion.
It was a passion. And you mentioned Stoker, and I don't know. Ronston was super fast, and we call it Nanu. Yeah. Stoker, sometimes I'm convinced that when he was running back, I saw flames coming from his heels. I'm pretty sure he was going that fast. He had on jets.
Well, Stoker will admit you say he don't as much. He had his brain guys from SP.
We don't want to feel you.
No, I'm telling you. I'm serious. He will tell you that. Let me remind you of the night that traffic. The underdogs.
He going back to that story, Frank?
Yeah, that's its glory moment.
But what I'm trying to tell you is that what I'm trying to say, Dwayne, that is the beauty of the game.
Yeah.
An underdog team who people thought had no hope of establishing a reputation as probably some of the best footballers on this island, left West Bay, went Georgetown, and insulted one of the number one teams on this island at the time.
I look at that, and I appreciate you sharing.
And that what it tells me, the ball is round.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I have looked at that story ever since you mentioned it, and I remember watching that game, and I think back to the times of Pearls and so on, right? Yeah. And I used that story. I'll be careful how I share this. I had to do a piece for English class one time, and we were comparing David, Goliath, and the like, right? Mm-hmm. And the underdog, and taking things for granted, and almost assuming that this is a fait accompli, so it's already. And I didn't use the names of the teams, but used the analogy. And I always think of that. You go into something believing that this is the outcome. You're overconfident in some respects. You take for granted that your opponent is already defeated. The Philistines started seeing that, who's David, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of speaks to where we are. This person now who's struggling, right, with whatever that thing is, if we write that person off, we don't continue to support and make them believe themselves, give them a support system.
Exactly.
And that is how I've always sort of reflected on that. But Frank, like you said, Brent's a dreamer.
Yeah, he is. He's always been dreaming. He's one of the best dreamers I've ever known.
But then
it's like him dreaming that one day he'll outrun me. It's just a dream.
I just love the man. I just love his attitude.
Just a dream.
I just love his attitude.
All right, a friend sent
But I'm
me-
going to remind him.
Yeah.
Don't forget to bring the cup to West Bay. Don't selfishly keep it in Georgetown, because you knew the outcome, what was going to happen at the last game. He would have to surrender the cup. So he selfishly came down with his story, forgot it. Forgot to bring it.
But could that be, Frank, that you're so confident, you know that? I mean, why even bother?
It's like you're planting a fruit tree.
Yeah.
Why you gonna root it up and take it somewhere else when
That's
the
how they bring it
fruits are
back.
always bare right there?
Okay.
Again, I love the man's
Yeah, man. I won't tell him. So mutual friends say he catches most of the games, right? So the time before last, he was by the fence just peeking through, right? And unlike me, he's taller, so he can see over the fence. He can only look through the wire. So he's watching, and one of the guys gets the ball, he says, and without question, this fella obviously knows what to do. He can remember the ball has come to him, needs to move and lay it off. But he said, man, just hold the ball at the feet. Nothing was happening.
Just stood up there. Brain freeze.
We were calling this, remember?
No, we won't do that.
But that's the fun, man.
What I can tell you, Dwayne, this is going to be one fabulous afternoon of good community spirit. And I love the way we do this, because we show up just for the purpose.
That's half the battle, showing up.
Just for the purpose.
Yeah.
Just for the purpose.
No, Frank.
I tell you what, though. I like the uniform. Why they pretty?
You mean the blue?
Yeah, they're pretty, boy.
Yeah. So don't worry.
It's a pity that we can't win that too.
Now you're talking about dreaming.
Yeah. No, I mean, but apparently the uniforms don't even get used, man. The guys doing.
Dwayne, let me tell you something. There's going to be one surprise down on the 28th.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hell of a surprise.
Yeah, man.
I just want to remind Frank, don't forget to bring the cup.
Yeah.
No, we won't forget.
Because we built a special place to keep it.
You built a special place to keep that one.
Special place.
Yeah. So I think soon we're gonna have to look another sponsor to.
We got marble on the table.
Buy a new cup, because I think after this outcome, and it goes back to Georgetown, I think we should just put it in a glass case and leave it there.
Exactly, and that's probably a good idea, except we won't be taking it back to town.
Okay, well, time will tell.
Yeah. As I listen to you guys, saying to the public, yes, you love football, and without question, the football fan, just as a football fan from day one, to the end. But for the wider community, this is more than just football.
Yeah, this is way beyond football. This is what we're trying to accomplish is to get the communities back together the way they used to be before, where everybody was your brother's keeper and everybody was friend no matter what it is, because there's so much segregation today within the communities that has so many social ills to it that by doing this, and if we can get the people to come out and support and be a part of it, it's a first step of creating back healthy communities where people will, have the camaraderie, they'll talk, as Brent said, they'll see each other, they know each other, they know their kids, they know who's parents or who's children. And I think that is one of the things that has changed our social ills in this country. It is time that we change that back, because what happened over the years was as we started our own families, what happened was we separated, and each and everybody, because of having to try and hustle, and some people were doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and they separated, and they didn't get that togetherness again, because then they started having the kids, so more responsibility started taking people, and then it is, you know, like I said, some people were doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They didn't have time to spend with some of their kids in the way that they should have. And the kids kind of helped grow themselves up because, you know, we started to go in an era where computers took over, and we started to give them games to occupy them while we were working or trying to make a life. And, you know, they kind of grew themselves, and by growing themselves, I think that some of those games that we gave to our kids kind of changed how they started to think. And some of that started to transpire in their behaviors and the patterns. And over time, it has created in their mindset that some of them can go out there and do these things that they play on these games. These can happen. And we need to try and show them back that, you know, having fun is not just sitting across the table talking to your friend on your phone, or sitting in front of a computer and just playing video games or whatever. It is more about getting together actually with your friend, seeing them, spending time, sit down with them, go out, watch games, go to the beach, go for walks, go for rides, doing things as a whole, as a community, as a brethrenship. So until we can get that instilled back in the minds of our people, that, you know, we rely more on personal responses than actually using the internet to reach out to someone, we're going to always have social ills because, you know, we do not, like I said, they don't share time together, so they don't get that emotional feelings, that touch, that sentimental feeling for each other. So it has driven our community apart. And by utilizing these sort of events, and there's more that we could do. There's more that we have hope down the pipeline, that other things we can start to get, because the interest of the people on a broader whole is not just football alone. It's a start, but it's not just football, because people have interest in other things. So we'd like to see other areas of the broader sporting arena.
I could always challenge Frank for 1 mile swim.
I'll tell you what. I like it. You're very competitive. You're full of spirit. You know?
That's it, man. But listen, as we go through that break, we got to laugh and love a little more. But someone else reminds me, and I was thinking about it earlier too, when we were talking about football greats. You know, Renard Moxham.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I mean, I'm sure when it comes to, you know, having it up in the head and trying to find it, he still got it, man. Yeah. But Monday, we tell us more about it when we come back and have the wider community and pick up what Frank was saying, that this is going to transcend just football and sport, and to bring the community together and remember that need to be our brother's keeper. I like what you're sharing there, Frank. And then Brent Hydes, man, you can beat him up some more, man.
Brent can beat me in the studio. He gonna try that, but actually when we get on the field is a total different thing.
Well, we got to hear who's going to win today, who's going to win on Monday. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go.
Puritan, now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. Take advantage of our ongoing discounts on all men and women's apparel. Ask about other discounts available in store. 3 convenient locations to serve you: Savannah Countryside, Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive-through, rain or shine. Free pickup and delivery available. Call Puritan Cleaners at 949-7104. You feel good when you look good.
Did you know that the Department of Environmental Health operates a recycling program in the Cayman Islands? Recyclables such as number 1 and 2 plastics, tin and aluminum cans, cardboard, as well as glass and ceramic items are recycled on Grand Cayman by the DEH. Take these items to the recycling depots located at all Foster supermarkets, Kirk Market, and Hurley's Grand Harbor. Remember, keep the Cayman Islands clean, reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And if you're laughing with us, that's good. If you're laughing at us, we can understand that too. And on Monday, you definitely can enjoy the laughter, the camaraderie, as Brent Hydes and Frank Cornwell is sharing. The food, the fun, and the fellowship. Quickly reminder though, right after the headline news at 1, a chance to talk with the physician over at HSA, Dr. Katrina Palmer Ford. We'll be talking about cervical cancer. So, gents, that's going to be probably a little bit more of an engaged, serious discussion. So, I better enjoy, the laughter now as well. But the idea that both of you were sharing that this is a football match for bragging rights, but it's about bringing the community together.
That's
focusing on an important issue.
That's the primary purpose of it, is to be able to try to rebuild a healthy community. Because we look at this particular event, there's no funds raised for Hope Foundation for this particular event. What Hope Foundation has done was came up with an idea of let's have a family fun day. We're going to provide some bunks and castles, some food, and we're going to do our best to try to treat the community right and appreciate the support for what the community has done for the foundation over the years.
I was just thinking, and just interject, you're talking about challenging for a swim. Sometimes probably don't do it before the game tomorrow, Sunday, right? Monday, sorry. A bunks and castle competition. Pick the 2 best players that you want and put them on, and then get 2 youngsters and see who. Have you tried those bunks and castles?
I tell you about them when I finish.
No, not really.
No.
But, I'd like to see Brent on the trampoline.
Yeah.
see, Frank keep going there, and he forgot about how flexible I am. He really forgot about how flexible I can be. I mean, I can go from one direction to the next.
But on your own?
No, I mean, when it comes to flipping and flopping,
it's not about flipping. It's about how many wires you gonna use tie yourself up in there so you can turn over.
Right. I'll let him go.
Let him go. No,
but let me just remind you guys of the 28th. And most of all, during that, I would like to give you an opportunity to thank these wonderful people that have always stepped up and sponsored this organization. We're talking about Coldwell Bankers, Junk, Cayman National, McAlpine, Calypso Grill, C3 Few Fiber. We got the food, which is going to be prepared by the Mango Tree. We got food going to be prepared by Island Taste. I don't want to forget Dr. Steve Thompson. He has always stepped up to the plate and his Sisters Foundation. Mr. Woodard Foster, who has always stepped up to help out this foundation in where he can. Mr. Marcus Cumber and the Speaker, McKeever Bush, who is big enough and man enough to put their names on the trophies. I think it's fantastic. But there's one guy I really don't want to forget, and I'm going to say this while I remember it, is Minister Joey Hugh. And his busy schedule, his family, his work, when these games are being put on, he's one of the first people to show up. And I thought to myself, the compassion of this man, to see other people in this community do well. Because if showing up and playing a football game for him is something he can do to help out the community, I think it's awesome. And I was speaking to him at the last event about that. I thought it was so big of him to show up and show up early. with all he has to do in the community. Frank also has a busy schedule, so do I. But I think with the load that he has, that he carries, I just thought it was big of him, really, really big of him.
No. Yeah. You know, Frank, as I listen, I recognize that it takes all of us.
Yes.
You know, because it affects all of us.
Yes, it definitely. It takes the whole island to make it happen.
And it's not. We don't want to necessarily, make anybody feel conscious necessarily, but we know people. Mm-hmm. They are friends or family. Mm-hmm. These are people that we, on a daily basis are trying hard to work with, who come to us, and sometimes, with respect, men who are drawn to tears, and who, because, as you shared earlier, Brent, the notion that of your residents, 5-hour employment, mm-hmm. now they're transitioning. Yeah. These are guys who want to do these things, but because of that addiction, mm-hmm. that control, I think you have shared with us, that this thing has over their lives.
And you can't. What we have to remember that, crime is our problem. Mm. We can't look at the guy that are struggling with substance abuse issues, that are committing petty crimes or whatever level of crimes that he's doing to maintain his disease. Because I can tell you most of the time that the person are doing that's not what they want to do. So we got to recognize that the crime is a national issue. And we as a community must do whatever we can to combat crime. Because, again, and I'll say it boldly, we can build all the hotels, we can bring all the ships, and we can bring all of this, and we can bring all of that. But I'm telling you, if crime becomes to the place like it is, and the rest of I would use the word the rest of the Caribbean, you're going to find that people are not going to feel so freely and want to come here for vacation.
But it's that too. But I think, Frank, the idea that even within our community, we talk about quality of life, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Within our own communities, the notion that you're free to walk about, go in your backyard, let your children ride their bikes.
It affects all of us.
It affects us all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we as a community must do whatever we can to combat it. Because at the end of the day, we got to recognize that, and I think both of you have touched on it, it could be a family member. Yeah. Could be a close friend.
I mean, how many have had co-workers, right?
But understand the fact that when we rehabilitate someone, we help them become better fathers, better friends, better members of the community. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on.
If I may ask both of you, and Frank, perhaps start with you first, with respect. There are those of us, and I speak to Cayman specifically, right? Those who live and work and call this home, who will look and say, that is that pocket, that area there. And they may go by district, they may go within a particular district, and fail to realize that it isn't just that area. It is this area, the country as a whole, all three islands. That exactly. Is, how do you say that?
We got to stop sugarcoating what's going on here. We got to take this thing for what it is. We're facing a crisis when it comes to people that are struggling with substance abuse in this country, and they're creating crimes, and they're making us feel unsafe.
Yeah, but they're also, I think, hurting themselves even when they know, but because of that grip on their lives.
Like I said before, they're not doing it because of that's who they are. Mm-hmm. Drugs turn us into things that we don't want to become.
With that, though, I do apologize for realizing the time, but with that, Frank, the idea that this thing has an addiction, a hold on us. So for that person who is struggling with rehabilitation and addiction, great, let's work with them. But for the others, the child of the addict, their friend, if they can see what it does for them firsthand and not have to engage in that, this is a good example for them to understand. Don't go this path.
That is basically where we as the outsiders that is also looking in needs to play a vital role into that, and helping to educate them and hold them, we would say, by their hand, and guide them that this is a path that you don't want to take. This is of taking that path. So by doing our part, we also helping the kids of those that are suffering from the substance abuse,
Mhm.
and turning them before that they turn to that road as well
Mhm.
into positive people within the community. So it's about, like I said, it starts with the community, but it starts within the homes. So if you have a friend who has a problem, and if you just turn your back on that person and walk away and say, listen, that's his problem, that's what he's doing, it doesn't serve the purpose of trying to help or rebuild. Because what you're doing is you're just leaving the problem to try and solve itself.
Mhm.
A problem can't solve itself. There has to have someone or something to solve the problem. And solving the problem is generally through the mind. Is the way you think.
So what happens is once we identify the problem, then we have to look at it for what it is. It takes, otherwise Frank or you or I or some other member of the community, and we have to do an intervention. Because we have to, because sometimes people don't see themselves like other people do.
But as you said, the ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, right?
Yes, yes.
So that intervention, that prevention, that practice
Yes.
step brings them. And hopefully, Brent, this is why we've extended an invitation to you and to others for so much. The ongoing dialogue, the notion that, we'll come out Monday, we'll have some fun, camaraderie, but we send a message, sort of a ministry in a sense, right? Be mindful that this is before us.
But that's why I like what NDC is doing now. They have selected a few people to go into the schools and to constantly talk to the kids. That is why doing that intervention early, carrying the message of the dangers and drugs early on a consistent basis.
Consistent, yes.
That consistency is what is needed. You just can't drop in, carry a message, and then go back a year later to carry the same message. You have to be consistent at what you're doing as far as when you're looking at prevention. Because most kids today in Cayman are very vulnerable stages of their lives. You remember a while back, I think it was written up, there was some little 6-year-old, 7-year-old boy that the police had to do an intervention, has caught him smoking weed or something along those lines. If we're not careful, we have to recognize that the people that are out there committing crimes, those people are now targeting our children.
Well,
they're molding them into become something of the lifestyles that they're living.
All right. Well, gents, I'm hopeful that maybe after the game on Monday, sometime down, certainly before the next event, to maintain that consistent message. As we close out, perhaps respectfully, quickly, Frank, any sort of partner thoughts from you, and then Brent?
Yeah, I would like to reach out to the people in the island to come out and be a part of this. Bring your ideas, bring your support, and come out and laugh, have fun with us, share with us, and enjoy with us. And let us, as a nation, as a community, let us work to make our island great. Let us work to bring our island back to where we're coming from, where each and every one of us was friends, and we didn't pass each other and didn't say hi or good morning. It starts with us, and it starts at home. I want to say to the parents, support your kids. Give them time. Work and money is not all. Home values is the most important thing. Share time with your kids. Have fun things to do with your kids. Take them out. Go places with them. And give them and show them your affection. Hug them. Show them that you love them. Tell them. And not just tell them, but continually emphasize to your kids the importance of family. Let's create a family within this country where we all are friends.
All right. Well, gents, I really appreciate it much, man. Brent, as we go to the break quickly, Ms. Susan remind Monday, right?
On behalf of the board and the Hope for Today Foundation, Halfway House, we just want to thank the Georgetown boys, thank the East End boys, Mr. Brent McLean and all those guys that have participated and continue to participate in these games. We got to remember that when we rebuild a healthy nation, it's safe for all. And we're trying to do that through sports. So again, I just want to send a big thank you to all the guys from Georgetown who's going to participate in this game. All the guys from West Bay that will be participating in this game. We will be having a bouncing castles from 3 to 6 for children. Other games as well. Come out and have some food. Everything is absolutely free. Frank and I will be putting together. We're going to pass out some flyers in GT and in West Bay, just to remind the community. So I also want to thank Mr. Floyd Webb for reaching out to the boys in Georgetown and come out, see us on the 28th, starting at 3 o'clock. We're going to have a nice afternoon of fun and fellowship for the community.
Thanks, man. I'll remind people.
Most of all, thanks Radio K-Man for always allowing us this opportunity.
Always, man. Well, let's pause and take a break, and when we come back, more Talk Today.
Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Government is looking for a lead architectural design consultancy service for the review and completion of the Bordentown Church of God multipurpose hall and hurricane shelter. The tender says Cabinet has given approval for the recommencement and completion of the 14,000 square foot facility. It will serve as a multipurpose hall for the church and greater community and a hurricane shelter that can house up to 500 people in the event of a catastrophic natural disaster. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. The United States Supreme Court has allowed U.S. President Donald Trump to enforce his policy of banning certain transgender people from the military. The court voted 5-4 to grant a Trump administration request to lift injunctions blocking the policy while challenges continue in lower courts. The 4 liberal judges on the court opposed the ruling. Football superstar Cristiano Ronaldo has cut a deal with a court in Madrid over tax evasion charges, accepting an $16.6 million pound fine. A huge media presence met the player outside the court after a judge refused his request to appear by video or to enter the building by car to avoid the spotlight. The deal, agreed in advance, includes a 23-month jail sentence, but in Spain, convicts do not usually do time for sentences under 2 years. And U.S. singer Chris Brown has been arrested in Paris on suspicion of rape. French police say a 24-year-old woman alleges that the star assaulted her in a hotel suite in the city earlier this month. She reportedly told police that the pair met at a nightclub in central Paris before they returned to the hotel. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio K-Man, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio K-Man is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio K-Man.
Cayman's cruise tourism is not at risk.
Not at risk.
Not at risk if we do not build the piers.
This is according to the Vice President of Carnival Cruise Lines.
The vast majority of cruise ships will continue to be smaller ships that will tender for the foreseeable future.
Of the 22 ships on order by Carnival Cruise Lines, only three
are mega-class ships
destined for the Caribbean.
It is also a fact that the 4th largest mega ship in the world, the MSC Margavalia,
will call on Cayman from October 2019 by tender.
Cayman's thriving cruise sector has grown steadily by 14%.
We will not lose any current revenue without the piers.
But we may jeopardize our stay-over tourism,
which generates 76% of our tourism revenue.
Is a cruise pier really needed?
There are currently too many unanswered questions.
Our government must get this right for us now and future generations.
Make an informed decision. It's your constitutional right.
It is your constitutional right. Sign the petition, support the referendum, and let's build our future together.
Having a party at the beach or a team building exercise at the park? Reserving your cabana is easy with the Public Works Department online booking system. Create your account and use the online calendar to pick your desired date and facility. You can even pick the cabana you want to use. Look for your confirmation email, print it off, and bring it with you as proof of reservation. Enjoying our natural environment has never been so easy. Visit www.eservices.gov.ky to book your cabana today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. We'll have some open line for not quite a half an hour or so, but until 1:30. And then we'll get a chance to talk about cervical cancer, the HPV vaccine in particular. I invite you to share your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 949-8037. Or toll free with the compliments of Flo, 1-800-534-8255. Quick reminder, hope for Today Foundation having a nice football match on Monday, starting at 3 o'clock at Bush Field. And it's not just football, it's a family fun day. Go out and join them and enjoy yourselves. Now, what's on your mind? What is it that you think is important? Well, I'll share with you a couple of things that have sort of been shared with me. And as I put some of the thoughts in their respective sort of categories, the one thing that has been shared most since the last couple of days has been the issue of planning and planning review, the ongoing sort of exercise to gain input from the public, the notion that some have shared that on one hand, as we try to become more efficient with collecting data, through online surveys and the like, as helpful and useful as they are they doing two things? One, displacing the number of people who probably don't necessarily want or can't at this stage access such portals. Not just that they may not be as savvy with the new gadgetry and the like, but it isn't their preference. Not only speaking to the older folk, but secondly to that ethos, the psyche of the Caymanian, the culture that is here, where we prefer to have a face-to-face. A town hall meeting has been the custom. Yes, some have shared there should be change and you should be willing to embrace change. But the notion that, as was the case with the earlier planning legislation and the proposals for a development plan, there will be public meetings and there will be some healthy, very, very vocal debate and commentary. Could we not have that, given that this is something that will affect us? So in the absence of that, will we only rely on the online or similar approaches? And by doing so, as one shared with me not long ago, again, echoing sentiments shared by others, are you disrespecting, denying, and somehow, sort of ignoring what has been the custom? And secondly, when you get feedback, what is that reflective of? Is it the wider community? Is that the community that is here by nature on a permit, may or may not be transient, may or may not, through their participation, imprint, put their stamp on something that may not be indicative of what the wider populace want, but merely a reflection of those who respond. What is it that someone reminded me? The grease and the oil goes to that squeaky wheel. Well, let me hear what you have to share. Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Sterling.
And to you, sir. How are you?
Oh, great. That's spreading the word of God again.
Listen, man, that's how we do it,
I saw that Mr. Brent, another guy before, but I thought I could listen.
Okay, I want you to help me, because I'm not sure about anybody else, but for some reason, either you're, I almost want to joke and say you're near a politician because I hear a lot of wind, or you're in a breeze. There's a lot of wind behind you.
I'm just at the stand near a window and a good wind up here.
There you go, man. Well, there you go. All right.
I got a little room here. It's better than the Wisconsin, you see.
All right. Well, we can hear you now.
I'm right across to the beach. I can go and sit on the wall across the road and watch the sunrise and the sunset. The buses pass right in front of my house. And of course, for a month, one would start recording for one day. And then, Mr. Armstrong, I have a few little comments I would like to pass on that. As you know, most times like more of a spiritual nature. And since Mr. Brennan, the halfway house, I think a lot of the problem with drugs in this island is that the churches especially do not understand a lot of things of why we're here, what we're doing on earth in the first place. Now, we are here to manifest the works of God in the flesh, right? And you take, for example, all the commandments. The first one, the Lord is one. They forget that one. You hardly hear churches preaching on these things. Because if you don't belong to my church or my religion, like you go to hell, then God is one. They don't worry about things like the Lord's Day, or honoring your father and your mother, or coveting somebody else's wife, or committing adultery. And these are all the commandments, right? But I just say the teaching for doctrines, the commandments of men. You can do all these things as long as you don't smoke ganja or use cocaine. Right?
So some sins are not as bad as other sins.
Yeah, but what goes inside you does not defile you. Those things are not going to stop you going to heaven. Right? But these other things that come from inside, the commandments in there, you hardly ever hear a minister preaching about those things. Maybe because so much of them are being done by these so-called Christian people. And as far as drug addiction is concerned, in all sins, Jesus himself was tempted by different ways by the devil, right? And we are all tempted in different ways. I asked the minister one time if he believed that evil spirits can possess you to make you do things you don't want to do. Oh, no, he did not believe that. I said, well, you haven't read your Bible, because Jesus spent most of his time casting out evil spirits from people, including Mary Magdalene, that beautiful 23-year-old blue-eyed redhead. And he cast 7 devils out of her.
But what is it? I mean, so that as I listen to you, what is it you want people to take away so that they don't lose exactly what you're trying to share?
When a person is an addict, whether alcohol or drugs or whatever, right? It is experiences we have to have on earth in order that we can understand other people with those problems. And you're fighting against someone because they do that. You're hindering your own development and theirs from progressing toward the kingdom of God. It is their life, their soul, not just the physical body you're dealing with, right? You're dealing with I know a lot of guys that used to use drugs heavily, right? And now them are good, big business people. And so a lot of them actually start off with sports. A lot of it running and all that help them to overcome it. But take like when Peter told Jesus, oh, I would never betray you, give my life. Right? And Jesus told him, before the sun set, before the moves the crow, you're going to deny me, right? So sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do, right? But there's other elements, evil forces, that are almost forcing us to do it so we can understand things. So you can't be condemning anyone because they do this or do this, smoke ganja or use cocaine or drink alcohol. Try to help them, assist them. And then when you end up with those problems, you will be a sister or will help you not to get involved in those things. Because if you help someone to overcome those problems, that will help you not to get that problem.
Right. Well, as I listen to you, I mean, maybe it is something that for each it's an individual, walk and relationship. Hey, thanks for sharing with us, man. Let's go to the other line. Welcome, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, my friend. How are you today?
All right. Are we not happy with the transport?
Okay, well, let's make us happy then. What do we need to do?
Yeah, those bus drivers, the one who, every day we have to talk about this, and it seems the director of public transport is not listening, he's not acting, and he's not, doing what he should do. And I think, the Mr. Franz Manderson, the deputy governor, he's the man always listen to the people, listen to their, this morning from 6 o'clock, early morning, until about, a lot of people standing in the road. Those buses, they should drive to north side or go to east end through north side or come from east end through north side to town. They don't continue their route. What the owners of those buses, they put those drivers, and they want certain money from them, so they want to carry people only to Bodentown. From Bodentown, they turn and go back to Georgetown. They don't even come to north side. They don't drive. Some buses from 6 months, you don't see him one time in north side, and he is a north side bus. And their behavior and their language and the behavior is very bad, and it's become problem. Public transport in those two districts, north side and east end, is a serious problem, and people go late to their work, and people losing their jobs because they go late to work every day because of those public bus drivers and their behavior unacceptable. I mean, how in the world Cayman Islands could put, somebody to drive a public bus and behave like this is unacceptable. Unacceptable anywhere in the world that you put somebody in a work permit and he's behaving like this. You have so much Caymanians, so much people who can drive public bus. Why the board don't take a decision not allow work permit to drive a public bus? We have drivers who here long time, and they know the system. They behaving good, but those 7-8 drivers who behaving bad, why the board don't take decision and stop them not to drive public bus in this country? Their behavior is not acceptable. Their language, they cuss bad words, walking his pants, drop and showing his underpants, walking like he is not conducting themselves, and their dress in like a real ambassador for this country. They carry tourists and they playing bad music. They put in people cross seats. They put in, if the vehicle should carry 14 passengers, no, they carry in 17. They put in a piece of board between the seats. Where we are in third world country, or we are in the Cayman Islands. How this could happen if an accident happen and those people over each other, and more people will get hurt? It is unacceptable. It needs to stop in this country. How the public buses behavior, those drivers need to behave themselves, because this can't continue, and you can't, as a board, allow one nationality to control the public transport in this country, and they gang up in people who live and citizens who live in this country, and they start don't want to stop for you if you complain about them.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, man, and lack of that enforcement is something. Let's go to our phones, though. Welcome, you're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
How are you? Hey, what's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm not sure if you have any specific topic or is it open?
Topic is your choice, man. It's open.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the newspaper today. I mean, about I hate to. It's unfortunate that we always got to talk about negative stuff. We try to extract most of the positives, but it's hard when you pick up a newspaper and see where we got $10 million in overruns at the airport. In this day and age where technology is cutting edge, I think we should have access to the proper consultants and architects and engineers and so forth to not have a technicality or something that can cost us millions of dollars because it was an afterthought. And reading that article and then listening to the newscast on that article, it's really unfortunate, Sterling, and I think that we need to. This is why we need to have conversations, and we need to start weeding out this type of behavior within our government, because here we have an airport that was slotted for a little over $50 million, $51 million or somewhere thereabouts, and now we up to the tune of $64 million because we forgot to add in hurricane-proof windows. Like, how do we go to design an airport in this day and age in Hurricane Alley with Ivan still fresh in our minds, and we didn't get it right from the get-go, and a lot of other things. I mean, the only thing that horrifies me, Berlin, is that this is starting to remind me of the Tom Jones situation with the schools, where he had all these change orders and running over all of this millions and millions and millions of dollars, and we still didn't get the final product in which we paid for. So I just want to know who is on that board, and why are these people's names and why are they not being held accountable? I hope that PAC has an opportunity to examine all of the details pertaining to this particular contract, because when I listened to the newscast, it said that, the government was going to use the funds derived from some of the airport head tax for passengers coming through the airport. But I don't see how that justifies it any more than if they're taking it from any other sector of government, because we're a service-based society. We collect fees and service fees and whatnot to generate our GDP. So it doesn't matter where you get it from. It's still the public purse. It's still the people's money. And I think we deserve better than just somebody saying, we got it wrong. And I heard where they didn't even have planning approval before they started the project. The electrical plan was refused 14 times. Like, where in the world are we getting these individuals from to do these projects with no checks and balances? Nobody's being held accountable. And then we're just supposed to read the headline and go quietly in the night and say, just another botched government project? Or do we draw the line somewhere? Do you know what $10 million or $12 million is in an average person's life? Do the government really understand what that means? If you took $12 million right now, you realize that's 1,200 people that you could have given $100,000 in our community. You know how far that would have gone with saving their mortgages and doing all these different things. So I have to ask the question here on this platform: why is it that the government has not called some action to order? Because this overrun has been looming for months and months now. The government knew the details long before now. They're just now advertising it in the paper so the rest of the public can see and see what's going on to try to justify. But why is we see people on boards that are directly conflicted with some of these things? I mean, let's look at the airport authority board. I mean, look at who the chairman is, right?
question that has been asked too is that, when the numbers are produced, are they as at this date that is current, or is it a date sometime in the recent past? So how current are the numbers to ensure where the cost overruns are?
And that is critical too, because who knows, at the end of the project there might be a lot more than that. They're just saying that now to hold over the public from being I guess over anxious to hear what it is. I'm even if it was $100,000, Sterling, in the grand scheme of things, $100,000 is still $100,000.
Yeah.
And if we have all of these so-called architects and engineers who's been paid millions of dollars to do their job and they got it wrong, that's costing us, shouldn't that come out of their pocket? Shouldn't that come out of their end of it?
You have to wonder sometimes, as you said, about the accountability, right?
I'm just so concerned that we're now taking this trend. And then hold on now. The best part about all that is that
right.
This is the same administration that failed at the schools, that's failing at the airport, and now we must trust them to build a port that would be the largest, that would combine those two projects and make them look like little preschoolers. So we Caymanian people, have now come to the realization that we have to get involved. We have to be more active in our communities. We have to, bring the government to task in order to create the checks and balances so that we can have confidence in whatever we do moving forward. Is that so much to ask of our government? Is to be transparent and honest to your people who elected you, who have to live in the very environment and suffer the consequences of their actions. So how is that too much to ask?
Yeah, good point, man. Hey, thanks and respect. Let's just, let us pause now. Take a break. When we come back, rejoin us, please. Schedule discussion on cervical cancer and in particular Gardasil, the HPV vaccine. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Hello, I'm Joseph Woods, the Acting Port Director. Our port facility is the hub of the Cayman Islands commerce and economic activity, handling $658 million in imported goods annually. From groceries to construction materials, all sectors of our economy depend on the port. But it is now 40 years old. Its infrastructure is degrading, and we feel the strain from insufficient space for both cargo and cruise operations. The time is now. A new expanded port facility is needed to allow both cargo and cruise to operate efficiently and to support our island's continued growth and development. Support the port, support our tourism, support Cayman's continued growth and development.
Flowers Bottled Water is a sponsor of Radio Cayman's CI Retro Talk Today, special Cayman Islands historical program series. Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water. Telephone 949-8688. We invite you to listen to our repeat broadcast of CI Retro Talk Today's Heroes Day Celebrate Cayman special program presentation on Thursday at 7 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us, and as we invite you to not just listen but to learn and equally to contribute, Dr. Karina Palmer Ford joins us. It's a pleasure to formally welcome you to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's not as bad as some people say, huh?
No,
oh, I tell you, man. Many people check in and sometimes they actually want to return. We'll see what today brings, and hopefully you will not be too reluctant to come back again as we need, all right?
I'm sure I'll be chomping at the bit to get back.
There you go. I think if your colleagues over there have anything to say, you probably won't have a choice. Because it's important, I think, we maintain this partnership with our, health sector, but in particular our health services authorities, so that the public understands, one, the competence and the commitment, but two, that dedication and the passion that we have, so that the people in the country avail themselves of every opportunity to be as healthy as we can, to be informed, to be able to develop, a wonderful relationship with the primary care physicians, so that we truly make the proper decisions about our own health care.
Absolutely.
Now, from that perspective, we understand that as sort of January rolls around, the focus on then is cervical cancer awareness in the month, and we look at it, and sometimes we don't always appreciate. So share with us. We'll go through and learn.
Yeah. So, as you said, January, specifically the 21st to the 27th, is Cervical Cancer Awareness and Prevention Week. And just kind of want to, as we're going to begin to talk about cervical cancers, just background information about it, specifically screening and what other means we have to help prevent it, possibly. I want to start by just asking then, what is prevention? Mm-hmm. And just not just for cervical cancer, but in general, prevention is, to me, simply just any action that you take to lower the chance of developing disease, in this case, cervical cancer. So when it comes to talking about cancers, I think sometimes it can be a little bit scary for people, a little bit daunting. And that's mainly because in the recent past, being diagnosed with cancer was basically a death sentence. And unfortunately, even today, that can still be the case in many cases, despite all of the advances that have been made in screening and treatment and care. But in the case of cervical cancer, I think we have a unique situation in that cervical cancer has a defined, avoidable etiology or cause, and if it's caught early, it's curable. That's simply something that you can't say about most cancers. And so just to define it for people who don't know, cervical cancer is a type of cancer specifically in the lower part of the uterus, or what's known as the neck of the womb. Occurs only in women, obviously, because they're the only ones who should have uteruses. And it's caused by a virus called HPV, or human papillomavirus. And we have, in the most recent years, discovered that HPV is present in about 99% of cervical cancers. So there's no doubt that HPV infection is the number one risk for cervical cancer. So kind of providing a little bit of background information again about it, it's the fourth most common type of cancer in women worldwide. And each year, the number in terms of new cases diagnosed, it went from 378,000 in 1980 to about 570,000 in 2018. Focusing in the Americas, there was about 83,000 new cases, and of those, 35,000 deaths as a result of cervical cancer, and about half of those happened in women who were older than 60. And so you can see from those numbers that even though it is the most preventable type of cancer, every year it kills about 200,000 women worldwide.
Wow. As I listen to you, we'll get a chance to talk about it. Now, well, first off, once you get the vaccine, then you said you can prevent it from getting cervical cancer. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, that's a broad statement.
Yeah.
But because we know that certain types of HPV will cause the majority of cervical cancer, like 90+% of them. So the two specific types that are responsible for most cases are type 16 and 18. Mm-hmm. The vaccines, all the vaccines that are available include those two types and additional types. Mm-hmm. So yes, it can prevent most cases, with the exception of if you happen to have a type of the minor minor types that cause it. So it's not a complete 100% prevention, but definitely in the 90%.
And we understand that for the HPV infection, there's no treatment. But
There's no cure for HPV infection. HPV is similar to, I guess, a cold virus where you just have to let it run its course. And most cases of HPV infection are transient, and most women will clear those infections on their own within a year to 2 years. And it is actually the persistent infections of the particular high-risk types that I was just mentioning and others that makes it risky for cervical cancer.
Yeah. So you get it in the time of the pass.
Most cases.
Cases. There are probably, I'm told 40 plus?
100 plus.
100 plus.
Types,
so there's a lot of types.
Yeah.
The vaccine treats how many?
Right. So there's currently 3 vaccines available. On island, we have, at the hospital, we have 1 vaccine, which is a quadrivalent. And that one covers types 16 and 18, which are those 2 high-risk types for cancer. And it also covers types 6 and 11, which are benign, but those are the ones that also cause genital warts. But on island, we have, as well as that, we have Gardasil 9, which is the most recent one, which covers those 4 that I just mentioned, as well as an additional 5 of high-risk types that are also known to be associated with cervical cancer. So type 31 and 33 and, a whole bunch of numbers are basically high-risk types.
Yeah, I was just trying to prepare and reading through and getting an understanding. And as you shared, there are a number of them. The more, as I gather, the higher risk perhaps more higher incidence of transmission are the ones that the vaccine sort of focus on, from what I can gather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the vaccine will cover the majority of the high-risk types that are responsible for cervical cancer. So it goes a long way towards preventing.
From our population in the country, do we have statistically any kind of percentage of what percentage of our population is affected by HPV? We may have the numbers on perhaps certain other cancers or incidence of certain other communicable diseases. Do we know what percentage of our population that we're looking at? We don't have that data yet.
No, we do not.
Yeah, and this is, from a public policy perspective, so many years where we don't have the data yet. We'll eventually get there. Huh? We think.
We hope.
And, for people who like statistics, they understand the importance of why that is. But for that individual, one incidence is one incidence too many in some incidences. As we go through and we talk about the vaccine, who should get it, how it's available and the like, share with us. We're talking for male and female, young boys and girls.
Males and females, and that's also something that, although we're talking about cervical cancer and, you think about it as being a problem for women only, it has been shown that vaccinating males and females is important for reducing that risk of HPV infection just as a whole. So it is available for females. The recommended age for getting the vaccine is age 11 to 12, but you can do what we call catch-up or even start younger at age 9, and it goes up until age about 26 for women. In males, it's the same age where you want to start, 11 to 12, and can go from anywhere from 9 to 21. And basically the reason why it's not really recommended to do it at higher ages is due to the fact that it's more likely at those ages to have already contracted the HPV types that the vaccine may cover, so it wouldn't be as useful or as cost-effective if you've already gotten the infection, because the vaccine is prophylactic, meaning preventative, is not going to treat existing infections. Although, just as a point of interest, there are vaccines in the works that are therapeutic vaccines, which would do that, help to treat already existing infections.
Oh. And the incidence of someone who is sexually active of contracting HPV, fairly high from what we gather?
Well, the numbers are basically, by the time you get to age 50, about 80% of sexually active people will have had HPV in some form or another at some point in their life. So it could be a transient infection, and then you may get it again, and it's transient. You could get different types as you go along. But yeah, so 80% or more in sexually active people.
And as we look at it, I've tried to understand it from different perspectives, especially for today's discussion. Those who may have some reticence, those who may be great champions, and sometimes it's hard to separate the rhetoric from the evidence-based information. And hopefully today, with your presence, we'll be able to give people a better understanding of, prevention rather than engage in speculation, as it were.
Yeah.
It's always difficult. If you wear many hats, it probably is more challenging. So thank you so much for sharing. Safety of any vaccine oftentimes gets, at least should be considered.
Yeah. And from the information that's currently available, the vaccine seems to be pretty safe. I mean, in terms of adverse effects, you do have the usual local site reactions where the vaccine is actually given, and particularly with the quadrivalent vaccine, there have been reports of syncopal episode or fainting episodes happening after administration. But overall, the safety profile so far, I mean, studies are still being done because it's been around since about 2008, so roughly 10 years. But in that space of time, what we have available suggests that it's safe. It can be given at the same time as other vaccines in the schedule at the appropriate ages. There's no need to necessarily separate it, and like I said, as far as we know, to date, it's safe.
All right. Well, when we come back, Dr. Palmer Ford will continue to join us. We'll relax, and honestly, it's something that I think as parents we're probably looking at, for our young children, as adults, who may say, well, we still need to ensure, like anything else, we're safe and we have questions. We'll invite any questions from our listeners. Certainly appreciate the good counsel of our doctor share with us. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Cayman's tourism product must be properly developed to ensure long-term prosperity for all.
According to the Environmental Impact Assessment, 3 years of construction will stop all water and shore-based activities in the Georgetown Harbor.
Snorkeling, scuba, glass-bottom boat tours, and submarine tours currently generate around $10 million per annum
from our Georgetown Harbor reefs alone. This will result in the loss of hundreds of jobs and closure of many small businesses.
14 acres of healthy coral reefs will be destroyed.
Healthy coral reefs destroyed.
Destroyed.
Cruise ship engines will stir up silt,
smothering the very product tourists come to see. Is this responsible stewardship of our precious natural resources? Will Caymanians really benefit from the piers?
Our government must get it right.
Must get it right.
For us now and for future generations.
Make an informed decision.
Support the referendum.
Support the referendum.
Support the referendum.
And let's build our future together.
Thursday at 7 p.m., you can hear a repeat broadcast of CI Retro Talk Today's Heroes Day Celebrate Cayman special program presentation brought to you by Hell Service Station, Hell Road in West Bay. Family owned and operated for over 45 years. Now that calls for a celebration. Hell Service Station, where you're more than a customer, you're part of the family. Visit Hell Service Station for all of your car care products.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. We're speaking to one of our general practitioners over the Health Services Authority, Dr. Karina Palmer Ford. And, the idea that we have a small community. As a small community, we can develop a very meaningful relationship with our physicians. That was the word that we like to use, our primary care providers. It seems to be the term that we've borrowed. And become the family physician. We go, we have a chat, we understand the history. And over years, you get to understand more about the families. Not just their medical history, but about their families. As we look at the idea of cervical cancer, and this month, for this next week or so, being the awareness of the initiative, and HPV specifically. Well, maybe let's start where we were, somewhere near the beginning. And are we talking, for those who join us, not just a vaccine for young women, but young men as well?
Right. So, HPV, we always hear it associated with cervical cancer, but it is a significant cause of also anal cancers, penile cancers, and oropharyngeal cancers, which can affect men as well as women. So, yeah.
Okay, and then with that, the vaccination. So, if someone is considered, given that it's probably someone under the age of majority, the parent would be, how would they go about it? What would be the consideration? We're talking specifically and preferably before someone is sexually active.
Right. So because we know that HPV is actually estimated to be the most common STD, then you would want to get it before sexual activity to prevent it, because once it's already there, at least the particular types that are covered by the vaccine is not going to do anything once you've already gotten that infection. So that's why the age recommendations, obviously things are changing nowadays and people are becoming sexually active younger and younger. But, ideally you want to do it at an age where you expect that the children or young women and boys would not be sexually active yet. I just want to make a point as well, though, that you don't want to take it as a hard and fast rule that once somebody is sexually active, they cannot get the vaccine or they're excluded from getting it. Because, as I said, HPV has hundreds of types, and there are some what we call benign types and then some high-risk types. The vaccine only covers, at least the quadrivalent vaccine only covers 2 high-risk types. The other one covers about, I think it's 7. But of the hundreds of types of HPVs, you could potentially be sexually active and exposed to HPV types that are not included in that vaccine. So if you get it even after sexual activity, you still benefit, because once you've not been exposed to those particular types, then you get the benefit.
Now, for someone who is listening and first off, they're not sure whether they may have it. You're talking hundreds of types. How would they know? If you have a cold, you may feel fever, sniffling, joints may ache. You may know that you have something. You might know exactly what it is. Is it H1N1? Is it what have you? But with HPV, can you tell?
There's basically no symptoms, particularly high-risk types I'm talking about.
Right.
You do have some symptoms with more benign types. So as I mentioned, types 6 and 11 are benign types, and they actually cause genital warts. So that could be a symptom, visible warts, and that would indicate that you have HPV. But, good news would be that it's a benign type, so not necessarily a risk for cervical cancer, but that can be one symptom. But generally speaking, you don't have symptoms.
Okay. Now, if you went to the physician and you were getting, say your checkup, and you say, listen, I would like to know if I have it, can they test?
There is a test for HPV, yes. You shouldn't do an HPV test. It's not recommended, I should say. Doing one younger than age 30. So it can be done, and it's available, but the recommendation is not to do it younger than 30. And the reason behind that is that HPV, as I said, if you're sexually active, you more than likely have HPV or have had HPV and cleared it. So in that younger age group, you tend to have a lot of these transient infections. And so if once you're testing for it at that stage, you will get a lot picked up once you pick up something, you can't necessarily ignore it, even though we know that more than likely it would be transient, your body will clear it, and there's nothing is going to come from it. But once you pick it up, then you end up having to do a lot of unnecessary further tests, like colposcopies, which are more detailed tests, and possibly having to do biopsies. So because of that knowledge that there's a lot of transient HPV in that younger age group, and you're very likely to pick it up, we recommend, or not we recommend, recommendations have been made not to test younger than 30. But we have it available. You can do it, and it's basically the same test as when you do a pap smear. The sample is taken just the same way.
Okay. Now, we have a couple of callers online. We're speaking to Dr. Karina Palmer-Ford, one of the general practitioners over at the Health Services Authority, and certainly we're talking about HPV. Now, as we go to our phones, I would not want you to put on your headset and mess up the wonderful, stylist that has presented you, but don your headset and let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, is that me, Dwayne?
Well, if it's you, then this is me. Yes, it is, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm calling because I feel badly that the person there seemed like a young person. And
no, I gotta say, compared to you, because you were what age of Noah?
You sound young, but anyhow, what I'm saying is this. I'm so saddened by the United States and other places, the pharmaceutical companies. In the United States, you have the big pharmas. You got the FDA. You got the what do they call it, disease control and all that stuff. Here, I'm going to tell you something. I got to say this on the radio, and I got to call this right. I can tell you right here. I just got a thing. It's from this Dr. Al Sears that I tell you about, that has done research for 20, 30 years on stuff that cures cancer. He now has a pill. He calls it the $1 cure for all diseases, because it cures 600 and something types of cancer. Baylor University, Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the top cancer societies in the world, has stopped using chemo and radiation for treating cancer. Here's something I'm going to just say to, and I hope people are listening. If you go out to the beach and you go in the sun, and you sit there out there, they tell you what? You're going to get what? Cancer, because of the radiation. And when I hear him talking about radiation to treat cancer, you know it's BS. These pharmaceutical companies will do anything. And this gentleman, this doctor, he is a Nobel Prize winner for that discovery. But the pharmaceutical companies threaten the doctors and the people who are involved in there, so that they don't mention anything about that, because they want to sell their products. And if they can't sell, can you imagine this, that if some of these big companies, all the big pharmaceutical companies, if they went out of business today because they found a cure for this, that, and other thing,
yes, sir.
You know what that would do to the economy of the United States? And for that reason, they don't want to do anything about it, so they continue to give people the idea that you got to buy this crap. I say to everybody out there today, if you want to get some information about what's good for your body, because I take this gentleman's supplements, and I'm constantly being told, you're so young for my age. What I'm saying is this: go do yourself a favor, go online at dralsearsmd.com, and you'll see all his stuff on his website. This gentleman is a godsend. People are going there. He's got a 40,000 square foot clinic up in Royal Palm Beach that people go there and they get cured from cancer within 6 months.
Yeah, well, it is, I think, people looking at natural things. I don't want to be too disrespectful to you, sir, so forgive me if I am. From that perspective, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. As we look at this whole issue, it can be an emotive one. It can be I don't want to say confusing for parents specifically, because you're talking about young people. Not that they're not going to be active. If parents are honest, they'll probably say, I was probably shouldn't have, but I wasn't. But what do we do and how do we get information so that we make informed decisions for the general, well-being of our children and ourselves?
I don't think it's an easy answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have kids too. We were just talking about that, right? I have a daughter who's getting to that age where it's recommended to start getting the vaccine. And I have to make that decision with my husband. Are we going to give it to her? Because, at the end of the day, there's information available, whether we believe that information is full disclosure or if certain things are being kept from us. I have to hope and trust that the research is being done and what's been provided to the public is sort of trustworthy, or at least hopefully trustworthy information. So my advice would be research it, because a recommendation is just that. It's a recommendation. Doesn't mean that you have to do it, but definitely do your research and try to make an informed decision instead of a blanket, I'm not doing this, period. Yes, that's a decision that you can make, but as long as I think it's informed and you're making that for specific reasons because you have done the research and based on that, you think it's going to be more harmful than beneficial,
Right. Well, as we come back from our break, we certainly appreciate not just your company and counsel, but as you share with us, hopefully parents in particular will start to take to heart that this is a decision you shared, about an informed judgment with what's available and what's appropriate for them. And as we have questions, maybe we'll be able to be pointed in the direction that we can get, some meaningful answers. Please join us when we return. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
National Heroes Day 2019 celebration will take place in Heroes Square, Georgetown on Monday, January 28th. Everyone is invited to attend the national event, which this year will shine a light on the vestrymen and justices of the peace who were instrumental in the creation of the Cayman Islands coat of arms. The public should be seated by 8:30 a.m. with the awards ceremony beginning at 9. The ceremony will be followed by a coat of arms exhibit in Georgetown Library. There will also be local food and live entertainment at the family-friendly event. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A memorial service has been held in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, for some of those killed during an attack by Islamist militants in a hotel and office complex a week ago. Hundreds of mourners gathered to pay tribute to 6 men who were all employed by the same technology firm, Cellulant. The company has praised their selflessness and bravery. Premier League footballer Emiliano Sala was on a light aircraft which went missing over the Channel Islands. The £15 million Argentine striker, who was 28, was one of 2 people on board the Piper Malibu, which lost contact off Alderney in the Channel Islands on Monday night. Cardiff City, which signed Sala from French club Nantes in a record deal on Saturday, said it was very shocked. And 2 5-year-old girls who left their nursery in Siberia in bitterly cold temperatures, unnoticed by their teachers, have been found. The 2, who wanted to surprise their parents, suffered frostbite and hypothermia. They walked home on one of the coldest days of the year in temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius. They were caught on camera as they slipped out, one clutching a cuddly toy and with no mittens on. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. And as we talk about Cervical Cancer Awareness Month with one of our general practitioners over at the Health Services Authority, Dr. Karina Palmer-Ford, it's a pleasure to welcome you. And I hope that despite the lack of chocolate and other swanky when you enter, the studio is still warm and inviting and you feel welcome. So thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Well, other risk and share with us more.
Yeah, so we were talking before about the risk, the number one risk or the most important risk for cervical cancer being HPV infection. But I also want to mention just a couple other things because it is the most important risk, but there are a few other things that increase a person's risk for HPV, and having information on those can also help people to make decisions, lifestyle changes and different things they can do to help lower those risks. So other than HPV infection, there are other factors that can compromise immunity, such as, malnutrition or HIV, as we know. People who have to be on immune therapy is the wrong word, but immunosuppressive medication for various reasons. Environmental factors, we know. You shouldn't be surprised when I say that smoking is a risk. It's a risk for numerous other diseases as well as other cancers. Vitamin deficiencies, long-term contraceptive use, meaning birth control pills being used for more than 5 years, that has been found to also be a risk for a cervical cancer. The reason behind that is that in women who are infected with HPV, the birth control pill, it's suggested that it does something. It's not clear what exactly, but it does something in the whole process of HPV-related cancers. The family history is another factor that has to be considered. So we've talked about HPV vaccine. Yes, that's available, and it is a method or a means that can be used to help prevent cervical cancer. But there are other things that can also be done to help lower the risk. So reducing the number of sexual partners. As we said, HPV is a big risk. So, if you have less sexual partners, the risk of actually contracting HPV is less. That makes sense. And the risk of spreading it is less as well.
Can I just sort of interject? Because I was just thinking something, and this is not meant to be funny by any means. One of the two partners may have only one partner, that partner.
Yeah.
But the other partner may have more than one partner,
sure,
knowingly or unknowingly. So the partner who doesn't have has by default multiple partners, right?
Right.
So monogamy is important as well. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, we live in a different time now, but it's still, you're still responsible for your body and yourself. So do what you have to do to be safe. Just generally.
Yes.
And that, as a result, will also help you from the point of view of HPV infection and contraction of that. Condom use, we know, we've heard about it ad nauseum with HIV and all of that. Condom use is important. Consistent and correct condom use, so consistent being key, that can also help prevent HPV. But one thing to mention or to note is that condoms do not provide complete protection against HPV or some of the other STDs even. So that's important, but that's not the only thing. Stopping smoking. So that's something, we know that from other cancers, but smoking is actually associated with a 14-fold increased risk of cervical cancer. And it seems to accelerate the cervical abnormalities in women that have HPV. And it also just generally will deplete overall immune function. And you keep hearing me talking about immune system and having a healthy immune system. So we know that immunity and good immune system is helpful in preventing cancer, not just cervical cancer, but generally, many different types of cancers. One other thing that I found interesting is that certain birth controls can actually help lower the risk, and one of them is the intrauterine device that is available for women. So it was found that it's a third less common. The incidence of cervical cancer is a third less common in women who use the IUD. And again, these are some things that studies are done, but it's not 100% clear why that provides a protective kind of, lowering risk situation. But it's thought to be due to, again, the immune system response to the IUD. So there's other things that we can do. Diet, we know diet. And then going back to the HPV vaccine, screening, lots of different things that can be done to help in this kind of battle against cervical cancer.
So that family, and specifically that mother, for instance, who was looking at being the primary driver relative to family planning, who's been on birth control for an extended period, needs to consider the risk relative to the...
Right. As I said, the studies are done and they find certain things in common, and so it has been based on the study that I was looking at. It's found that yes, definitely they can see that there's a link there, but it's why exactly that happens still not clear. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's something to discuss with your healthcare provider. Should I be on this, going on 10 years birth control pill or whatever the situation may be?
Include the IUD and the like. Right?
Well, the IUD is actually protective. So birth control pills are found to increase risk factor for cervical cancer, but the IUD on a flip side has been found to actually decrease the risk. Yeah. And again, not 100% sure why.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how it is sometimes.
But that was the thing. I was trying, and I would chalk it up to me not speaking the language, as it were. So I've tried looking over the last few days in particular, different research. I've gone to some of the more credible sites, both in the US and in the UK. And unlike some things where there are a lot of research that seemed was available, I could almost count, the papers that were there. It seems to be not as much as in some areas. Is that because I wasn't looking in the right way and using the wrong keywords? Or it is that they're there, but they're in special journals and not necessarily online?
Research specifically for the vaccine?
Vaccine and HPV and...
Yeah, I mean, there is research there. I don't think there's as much research there, but there is ongoing research. I mean, like I mentioned, they have... Well, this might be construed as it's again about the money.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there is a vaccine that is being developed to treat the HPV infection as opposed to preventing it. But there's ongoing research, but not as much.
Well, for what it's worth, I mean, I believe in putting your cards on the table. We're not playing a game of poker. For me, I'm always one of those, I call it, discerning consumers. And I always look at things in a light that maybe seem to be somewhat a little bit, how do you put it? Maybe a little bit more critical than others, but it's just my training. Who did this? Who funded it? What was the population size? So I always look at things like that. And yes, money plays a part. Whether you're asking the guy to tell you which energy source is best, or whether you're asking to taste which chocolate, hey, who's funding it? If the chocolate guy is funding the research, his chocolate might be the one that's favored. I don't know. Confirmation bias perhaps. But from that perspective, though, when we're looking at the vaccines and the whole notion, we're seeing an age range, and we're talking mostly mid-20s. And after that, there's still some consideration as to whether the vaccine should be administered. Wasn't quite sure I understood why.
Right. So, like I think we said it before, that in females it's recommended to go up to age about 26, whereas in males 21. And I mean, the recommendations come as a result of a lot of factors. It comes as a result of research as well as cost effectiveness. I mean, it comes down to that as well. But the reasoning for that is due to the higher chance of HPV exposure, particularly to the types that are covered by the vaccine. So it's a higher risk of exposure to those types where the vaccine will no longer be useful. So again, it will decrease the individual benefit, but also the cost effectiveness. So that's basically why. I mean,
all right. Again, being informed, all right? We do have a caller online. Let us go to our phones. And first off, sir, I understand you were waiting for a while. My sincerest apologies. Let's go to our phones and join the caller. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Sturley.
Yes, sir. Welcome back again, sir.
Then how these cancer people on, I come up with the same thing. A cure prevention for cancer. And I don't know if they're waiting until they can make money off it or not, but thousands of people dying all the time. And good doctor.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
I'm assuming you believe in God.
I do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Interesting. You there? Okay. You know what? There's a part of me that would want to joke, and there's a part of me remembers. You try that joke now, you see I'm on the throne. I might strike you. So I won't. But yeah, it's a challenge. From that perspective, though, as we look at this decision for a parent, I would imagine, given that we're talking specifically for those under the age of maturity, other considerations, please share with us, because we're here to benefit, from your experience and expertise.
Right. So the HPV vaccine is, the best thing I can say is it's available. It's been around for roughly 10 years, so you have to know that the information available around it is limited, right? So I'm not going to say that you have to go out and get the vaccine, because it's a decision that you have to make, an informed decision. But we do know certain things. We do know 99% of cervical cancers have been found to have HPV as the cause. Mm-hmm. We know that HPV infection, if you are sexually active, you will almost more than 80% is what the statistics say, have been exposed to HPV. Mm-hmm. The vaccine has been developed. It's there. There will always be, not just for this particular issue, in any situation in medicine or otherwise, there's always going to be a risk and a benefit. So it's just the decision to know if the benefit that you're going to receive from this vaccine is going to outweigh the potential risks. I mean, if you tell me that, maybe not as a child, but as a young adult, you are, not having multiple partners, and you mentioned the fact that you may not have, but your partner may, and so that's a risk. Everybody takes that risk. Mm-hmm. But you're being safe, you're not smoking, you're healthy, you're doing all the things that you should do. Then the vaccine, to do it, to get it, to not get it, same, coming from the point of view of the parent as well, to have your child vaccinated or not, it's a decision that we have to make that's informed, weigh the risk, weigh the benefit, and I think it applies to the other vaccines that we give our children, because, you've heard about the controversy with vaccinating and the link to autism or, all of these things. There's no easy answer.
It's not easy being a parent, an informed, active parent. Let's pause quickly, though, and take our final break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
At KFC, we believe you don't have to share a last name to be a family. Whether it's an office party, holiday fete, or family gathering, enjoy KFC's fresh, hand-breaded finger-licking good chicken. The KFC Festive Feast includes 10 pieces of original recipe or spicy chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, tasty coleslaw, and warm biscuits. KFC's holiday catering menu includes buckets of hot wings, sweet chili wings, or chicken tenders. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Radio K-Man's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio. Enjoy your mix of pop, hip-hop,
dance hall, urban gospel, Latin hits,
reggae, and soca. The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of
Savannah Pharmacy, just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Headlines. With the latest headlines. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Hello, I am Noel March, a small business owner in Georgetown for over 20 years. Small businesses depend on government to develop a quality infrastructure and environment that encourages entrepreneurs to create and grow local businesses, resulting in the creation of jobs and prosperity for Caymanians. Small businesses help drive our economy. Just as we have supported building the new airport, we must support the building of the new cargo and cruise port. It will give our tourism industry the opportunity to grow and Caymanian entrepreneurs the chance to shine. Support the port. Support our
Flowers
tourism.
Bottled Water is a sponsor of Radio Cayman's CI Retro Talk Today, special Cayman Islands historical program series. Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water. Telephone 949-8688. We invite you to listen to our repeat broadcast of CI Retro Talk Today's Heroes Day Celebrate Cayman special program presentation on Thursday at 7 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks so much for joining us, and equally, thanks for a continued partnership with the Health Services Authority. I say this, and if it's a political statement, forgive me, I won't back away from it. Pillars in our society, it's a strong, robust education system, and equally strong, robust healthcare system. Because without a healthy, educated populace, you can have all of the natural resources, but how can the people benefit? That's just what I say. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's political, but I've been accused of worse. And to have the good company of Dr. Karina Palmer Ford join us, as we had many of our other colleagues in the past, it just shows that we have not only the expertise and experience, but the passion and that drive to ensure that our populace are informed, and they're also, available and hopefully guide us in making decisions that affect us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. I wanted to kind of, if you don't mind, steer the conversation a little bit away from the HPV vaccine to go back to the basics, because before the HPV vaccine came about, back in the 1950s is when the Pap smear came into play. And I don't want us to minimize the impact that has had on the prevention of cervical cancer. I mean, since the introduction of the Pap smear, like I said, in the 1950s, there's been a decrease of about 74% in deaths worldwide from cervical cancer. So that's to me, that's a huge number. And I just want to share a little story that in preparing for this, I got this information and I thought it's so interesting in this day and age, right? Mm-hmm. There was a volleyball player from Trinidad named Ayana, I think it's Diet was her name, 32 years old, and she died last year, 2018, from cervical cancer, stage 4 cervical cancer, and you wonder, how in the world does this happen in 2018? And it just goes to underscore the point that we have screening available with the Pap smear, HPV testing. Yes, we talked about the vaccine, but what I find to be the most important, if you're going to take away something from this, it's that with cervical cancer, unlike many other cancers, we have an arsenal, if you want to call it that, to be able to help prevent it. But like the saying goes, if you can take a horse to water or something like that, but you can't make a drink. I think the same applies here. We have these things. This is not something that's in the future. We have these things available now. But still, whether it's because of lack of education or knowledge of the availability or access to healthcare, whatever the situation may be, there are still people who are not utilizing these methods of screening and testing, and therefore you end up with a sad situation like that, where this 32-year-old woman, healthy athlete, ends up dying of stage 4 cervical cancer. Shouldn't be happening. Especially,
you see, we could put a man on the moon, why can't we, right? Is that the one we always hear?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, for me personally, if you develop a good relationship, you get an annual, frequent checks, follow the physician's advice, be your best advocate. You, over time, develop a rapport, you feel comfortable, the physician has evidence, because of the interaction of what to do, and then you get the information that helps you to make informed decisions.
Yeah. Yes.
It's challenging, man. It's challenging. I worry sometimes that we don't always do, what we're supposed to. I'm as guilty as that. The physician tells you, well, you need to exercise more, sleep more, don't eat certain things.
Yeah, I mean, we're all guilty of it, trust me.
All right. Now, from that perspective, for the lady in particular, the mother, the father who's listening in, with the young children, male and female, so the boy and the girl child, where do we go from here? We've had this discussion. We recognize, as you shared, about a decade now of the vaccine sort of being out there, hundreds of different HPVs, 4 main ones. Probability, flip a coin. I mean,
I think the easy answer to that is get educated, right? I'll tell you something that the World Health Organization had to say on this. So they were talking about the high mortality rate that's still considered high from cervical cancer around the world. And it's basically that through a comprehensive approach of prevention, so we're talking about screening, we're talking about early diagnosis and treatment, we're talking about the vaccine, doing all of those things is the way to go forward to be able to reduce that number of mortality from cervical cancer even further. And from my point of view, I think it's essential that you have to educate women, people in general, but women specifically, about the importance of regular cervical cancer screening. I'm not talking about doing a pap smear 20 years ago and you never do another one. It has to be regular screening. And also then by educating parents and young people about the vaccine and the pros and cons of it, and then a decision has to be made. I mean, I can't give you the answer as to what decision should be made, but like I said, we have an arsenal available to us. Yeah.
And, we, perhaps everybody in every society does the same about its own society, but yes, there's probably much to complain about in Cayman. Some may be justified and some may just be unfortunate, but personally, I think we have a great resource available to us, not just relative to anywhere else, just for a country.
Yeah.
How are we availing ourselves? And if there's something missing, what are we doing to complement it, to make it available? If I could ask, though, relative to HPV and the screenings and the vaccinations and the pap smear. Forgive me, I'm not a woman. I don't play one on the radio, so I don't know. But as women, as young ladies, come into their own, pap smears, I always thought that was for women at this age. Is that the case, or should young ladies, as they start to go to the physician with their mothers in their teens, or they're, I don't know, maybe it's not a question that I should ask, but maybe it's a question that I don't know.
It's important to know. So there is a screening recommendation or screening guidelines that have been developed for cervical cancer.
Right. Okay.
And so it's not recommended actually for women who are younger than 21 to become screened.
Okay.
And the reason for that, I think we touched on it briefly, was because of the HPV prevalence. Is lots of HPV, and it's usually transient and it would regress. Therefore, if you start screening under 21, you end up picking up all these HPV infections, and then you have to do things, possibly colposcopies and biopsies and further unnecessary things. So the recommendation is to do screening starting at age 21. And there's various ways that can be done, but basically from 21 to under 30, you can either do a pap smear alone every 3 years based on U.S. recommendations, but we actually do, in Cayman, we recommend every 2 years. Yeah. You can do what's called the HPV DNA plus pap smear in the age 30 and older, because we talked about less than 30, they don't recommend doing HPV testing. But you can do pap smear plus HPV every 5 years is what's actually recommended if you do that way in the age group older than 30. Or you can do a pap smear alone, like I said, every 2 years here. There's different ways of screening, but the long and short of it is under 21 it's not recommended, but from 21 onwards there's various ways that can be done.
Does that matter if the lady has already become a mother? She's had children. Does it matter? Or?
Not really. According to the recommendations, it's irrespective of initiation of sexual activity or otherwise.
Okay. Now, some things are mandatory in life, some things aren't. is the administration of the HPV vaccine mandatory?
No.
Okay. Didn't think so, but just confirm.
No.
Given that we're looking at young individuals now, some people might, take offense, but hey, too bad. A child is not yet 18, and even if a child is still under the care of a parent, that's still somebody's child. So consent, or at least knowledge of this thing, but given under the age of majority, if this is going to be administered, let's say schools have a wonderful program of trying to get informed and bring people along, can it be administered without parental consent, irrespective of the age of the child?
To my knowledge,
okay.
No.
Okay. Didn't think so either, but let me ask. And only because of how I am. I think you're just, you're responsible. I mean, I would love that your parents, you're 50 years old and your parents are 80, that you can still go to them, ask them a question, that they'll still take interest in you.
Yeah.
Did you make a mortgage payment? Did you have anything to eat? Isn't that part of being a community keeper? Yeah, you're a big boy now, but
yeah,
someone to watch out for you, like a mentor would guide you through your career. So for parents, as we look at this, as we have, you repeat it over and often, get informed. Would we speaking to our physician as we go for a checkup worthwhile? Would you be sitting in front of the computer and looking at some search engine? I mean, what would be an effective way to get really, really valid information?
I think an effective way, we can certainly use the internet, but a lot of times there's a lot of information available and you have to filter through what's useful information versus not. So that's certainly a starting point, but from there, I would develop your questions, write them down, and then take that to your doctor and say, look, I was researching about this. I'm trying to decide if I should get my kids vaccinated, and take it to them and have a discussion. That would be my recommendation, because like I said, there is information available there, but it's whether or not you can assimilate that information and take what's useful from it and use that.
Well, I think that's shared. I think that comes from us being, like as you shared, Doctor, the notion of any vaccination, being informed, being concerned, being able to speak, very honestly and openly with your physician. You don't know. That's why you're going to the physician. You feeling some problem. Doc, this is bothering me. The doctor helps you, but you need to be able to tell the doctor, well, does it lift, hurt when you lift the arm? Is it itching? Is it red? You need to be able to share some information, right?
Right.
You're not magicians or nor mind readers.
No.
Sometimes I think, though, you might be. But thank you so much for sharing this. As we close out, any additional things you want to make sure that we take away?
I don't know. I think I said it 100 times already.
I think you have.
Yeah,
it's worth repeating.
You're responsible for your health. Yeah. I'm a strong believer of that, because too often we think that the doctor is going to fix me, and we can only make recommendations and tell you what the guidelines are, and give you, even if you need a prescription, give it to you, but we can't make you take it.
All right.
So you're responsible for your health. Get educated, get informed. Do the recommended things if you've done your research and, it seems like the way to go. These are things that are recommended based on a lot of studies, so it's not just pulled out of thin air. So, do your screenings. That's all I have to say. I think it's important, and be educated, but still look into it, go along with what your doctor says, not blindly, in discussion with your doctor, but I think it's something where, in this particular case, cervical cancer, we know for a fact it's not, it can be prevented.
Yeah.
So if we can do that, let's do it.
And I think if I'm not out of place, so please, with everything, as you shared, we are our best advocates for our own health, and whether it's in relation to this or other things, let's make sure that we are as much informed as we can be, so that we're doing what's best for us and for those that we're responsible for and care about.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, and hopefully you'll be able to, with the other colleagues or individually, join us again another time to talk about this or any other topic that's valuable when it comes to our healthcare.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Please enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully we don't give you too much trouble and you'll be able to smile by weekend. All right? To our listeners, please have a wonderful afternoon. Come back tomorrow. Join Mr. Art for the record in the morning. Come back for Talk Today right after the midday news. And why don't you give Susan a call? I mean, she's sitting there, with not a whole lot to do. Not at all. Give her a little more trouble. Request some songs. We got some interns. We want to put them to greater work and use. See if they can find a song of your choice. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.